Baba today says that slowly, gradually, you will have regard. Now, regard for what? So, regard for Baba and regard for the study or regard for Baba's teachings. Now, you see that Baba teaches us everything that we need to know. And Baba's teachings are called Shrimat. And what is Shrimat? Shrimat are the teachings and directions that if we follow, we change from a human to a deity. Now, each one of us is receiving Shrimat, but not everyone is changing into a deity. Yes, so we see that even amongst Baba's children, it is very number wise. Some are imbibing a lot and some are not imbibing anything. Some are just, and there are others who are just listening from one ear and allowing it to go out from the other ear and doing nothing about it. But why is that difference there? Why is the Shrimat, which is supposed to change us from a human to a deity, not changing each one into a deity in the same speed and same measure? Because there's a difference in the stage of regard we have. And when we have regard for Baba and regard for Baba's teachings, then we imbibe them. And I remember there was one classmate I had in school, and her father was a physics professor, and she used to fail in physics. And we always used to tell her, you have great opportunity to learn physics from your father. And she used to just say, who will learn from that man? So, you see, the father can teach everything, but if the child doesn't have any regard, then he doesn't learn, and that child fails in the same subject in which the father is a teacher, a professor. So Baba also says that I am God, I am the authority, I am the final word, I am the truth, and everything that I am telling you is the truth. But do you have regard for me? And when we listen to this first, we feel, what kind of question is that? Of course I have regard for Baba. But do you have the bhakti kind of regard or the practical regard? Because you see that there is a regard that we have in bhakti, that you keep that Baba is a date, a figure, an idol. And then you just keep worshipping that idol and praising that idol and singing and chanting for that idol and doing tapasya for that idol, staying hungry for that idol. That is all right. But what happens when that idol starts speaking and starts giving directions? Then what happens? Because you see that there is a regard which we have developed for, God was not more than a doll in bhakti. So God is like a doll, you just, you decorate according to your wish, and you venerate, or you have reverence for, and you pray to according to your convenience, and then you drown them, and then you dance and sing, and that kind of a regard we all have for God. But what happens when God comes practically into our life? Because you see, for 63 births, we have not had a God that speaks and a relationship in which we listen and follow everything He says. So we don't have that kind of a relationship with God in bhakti. And I remember there was this one occasion when it was Navratra, and there was a lady who had organized that whole, that on the Ashtami they had organized a program, and she told me that, Didi, you come and speak something in that program. So I said, okay. So I went there, and there was so loud music, and everybody was just dancing and eating, and all of that was going on. And then what I figured was they had no plan to take a break. So I knew that, and they were not even in the mood. They were all very upbeat, and it was very loud and very energized. And I thought they are not in the mood to listen to a class right now. So I said, okay, let me just enjoy the environment. And then I also sat there in remembrance of Baba. And then some minutes later, what happened was there was a power cut. And then the generator also didn't work. And then I had the opportunity to speak, because nothing else could be done. So Baba gave me the opportunity to speak. So, and everybody was so exhausted by doing Mata Rani and all. And then in that environment, I just asked them, so you are really calling out to Mata Rani? And what happened if she came? And they just looked at me like, why are you speaking of the impossible? So I said, what happens if she comes? And then what happens if she doesn't leave? She just stays here. And then she accompanies you to your homes. And then she tells you what to do at every step. She tells you that you have to get up at this time, and then you have to do this, and then you have to eat this and not eat this, and talk like this and not talk like this. So I could see them sweating just with that idea of the goddess emerging and doing that. So I said, so you like a God that doesn't speak, right? But then, you know what? God is always praised for His word. So, it's God is what God says. And why do you like a God that doesn't speak? And you just make that idol sit in one place, and you do the dancing and singing and everything at your own wish. And why don't you have a relationship with a God that speaks? So then one of them asked, where do we find that God that speaks? So I said, you have to take the course to know about that God that has come and is speaking. And nobody else even asked, because, although there is a relationship, there is a regard for God. And of course, God, we have so many ideas about God that, figures, figurines, deities, everything qualifies as God in India. But again, you have to know Baba, who he is, and what does he look like, and what are his qualities, where does he live, and all. But what I'm trying to say here is that having regard for Baba The Baba who comes and speaks to us is very different from having regard for a God that doesn't speak and doesn't direct you to do anything. And Baba says, when you have regard for Baba, you have regard for his study and you have regard for his directions. But let me ask myself, many a times in the day I would say Baba, Baba. But then do I have regard to follow every direction that he gives me? So that's the kind of regard that qualifies as regard actually, because other kinds of what you think is regard is not actually regard. And Baba says that it is high time that you started having regard for my directions, because only when you have regard for my directions does it prove that you have regard for me, because I am what I say. And when you do not have that, when you do not attach importance to my directions, or you do not hold them in esteem and you do not take care and pay attention to follow them, then it is like disregarding Baba. And Baba says that if you keep doing this, then how will you claim your inheritance? Yes, and just look at the simple things that Baba tells us. So, Baba is telling us that if you are creating a world of peace, the first thing is you have to be peaceful. If you are creating a world of purity, you have to pay attention to remove all dirt and peacelessness from you, from your own inside self. So, do we take care to remove that, or do we indulge in acts of anger and bitter words and all of that, and then just say, the situation was very big, and Baba, if you were in that situation, you will also lose your calm. You don't know that person. So, do we have regard, or do we just keep saying, giving excuses, giving? So, have you seen that? I remember there was this one friend, and he had a friend, and this brother had a friend, and every time he would tell him, meet me, the other friend would say, I'm busy in this today and I'm busy in that today. And then slowly they fell apart and there was no friendship, because if you keep saying, if you keep giving excuses all the time, then that means that you don't have regard. And if you have regard, you will make it work, right? So Baba says that a sign of regard is that if Baba has directed me to do something, I do it anyway. And if I just keep saying, Baba, you understand this time, and you understand that the problem was very big and the obstacle was very big and I couldn't do it for this reason and that reason, that's not called having regard. So, and how will somebody you don't even have regard for give you inheritance? So Baba says you need to have regard, and you see, if we imbibed whatever Baba is saying, then I don't think we'll be even waiting for Satyug, because we will be experiencing and creating Satyug every moment. Everybody around us will also feel like they are already in Satyug. And Satyug will just be a very natural transition. But it is just because of this lack of regard that we are not doing what Baba is saying. Every day Baba is saying that, you should have the attention to accumulate yoga power. And how much attention do we pay to accumulating yoga power? Do we leave the phone and really connect with Baba? And sometimes, we think that we are having yoga with Baba, but actually it's yoga with the voice that's giving the commentary or the music that's playing. It's not really with Baba, and our heart is not yet open to receive the light and might from Baba without any support of music or without any support of a commentary. So Baba says that I am giving you so many directions, and these directions are going to change you from a human to a deity. And Baba says that I'm telling you that this is the only time, and if you don't create your fortune now, then you will receive punishment, and you will also lose your elevated status. But do you pay attention to even this warning or caution that Baba says? Because if somebody you don't have regard for cautions you, then you don't pay attention to that caution also. Yes, I remember that, there was this one doctor in our family, and everybody thought he's a quack and he doesn't know anything. And once, there was this little child and he was having some trouble, physical trouble, and then this doctor in the family said, you should not eat grapes, they will harm you. And then the mother fed the grapes in front of that person because she thought that this person doesn't know anything. And immediately after that, this child started having reactions to it, and then she repented, because sometimes you don't even pay attention to the caution that somebody gives you because you don't have that kind of regard. And it is very strange that when you think about it, just think that I don't have regard for Baba, and your heart says, no, I have deep regard. And I'm always saying Baba, Baba, and I'm always praying to Baba, and you're still praying, right? Baba has come, but Baba says that that is not regard, that is the false idea of regard that's given to you in bhakti. So just take this example. You have somebody and they live with you, you live under one roof, and they don't do whatever you say. Everything you say, they do the opposite of it. And then they keep saying you, I love you and I have deep regard for you, and I really, what do you say, I revere you and respect you. And they keep saying this all day, but then they don't do anything that you ever say. Then would you take that as regard? That's not regard. And in Hindi Murlis, Baba always uses this very nice word, Langda Man, which means lame regard. And in the world there is lame regard, and the regard that is only for showing, externally showing that I have regard. But in truth, if you had regard for something, then you would pay attention to what they are saying, you will pay attention to what they are directing you to do, and you will pay attention to the caution they are giving you. And when you practically work in these situations, who has regard and who doesn't have regard. Because there's a lot of Langda Man in the world where everybody is saying I love you and respect you, but then you cannot see that translating into actions. They are not paying attention to what you want and what you are directing and what you are seeking. So Baba says that if you had genuine regard, then that genuine, of course, Baba doesn't need our regard, okay? So don't now fall into that illusion that God is begging for my regard. And sometimes, and I remember there was a critique of Gita, and this person said something very, very interesting. He said that I don't like the Gita because in Gita, God keeps saying, remember me, remember me, remember me. So I feel that, God shouldn't be saying so many times, remember me, because why does God need my remembrance? And that's so ignorant of a person to say, because whatever Baba tells you to do is for yourself, not for him. So it's not like when Baba says, you should have regard for me, Baba wants that regard. Because when you have real regard for Baba, you follow his directions and then you attain a good position in your next 21 births. And that's what Baba is talking about. Baba doesn't need our regard, and if we are under that illusion, then you should be clear that Baba doesn't need it and it's no use, it's of no use to Baba. But we need to have regard so that we can become somebody who deserves regard in the future. So giving regard to Baba will make us eligible for regard for 21 births in the future. And this is something that today Baba is pointing out, and it's very important that we have regard for Baba and his teachings. And I'll share something that happened some days back, and there is this sister, and she works as a nurse in a hospital, and she's very loving and very kind. But she shared something very interesting. She said that I have problems with my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law and I don't get along, and because of that I'm even thinking of taking a divorce from the husband. So I said, are you fine with your husband? So she said, yes, my husband is a nice person, but my mother-in-law is not. So I said, but you see, you are a nurse and you are in a profession where all through the day you are dealing with people who are in physical pain, emotional pain, and because of that they are not in their best behavior, right? Anybody who is sick and goes to the hospital is not in their best behavior. Sometimes they are shouting, sometimes they are abusive, sometimes they are and everybody, those sanskars, they come up in times of illness. So I said, you are a nurse, and do you feel that you are taking the pressure of being in the hospital and being in this kind of a behavior all day? So she said, no, I love my job and it is a kind of seva and I really like to do that, and when somebody is misbehaving, I just pull up my compassion and I do that seva for them. So I said, if you are so compassionate, then what happens with your mother-in-law? So when you go home, why can't you be compassionate with her? So she said, you see, so your home is your comfort space. And she used this word and she said that I want to be in my comfort space when I go home. So I said, so that's the idea, that's actually your problem. Your problem is not the mother-in-law. Your problem is this idea that, I have to put my guard down and I have to forget all the gyan and yoga, and when I'm at home, everybody has to be like I want them to be. But Baba tells us that this whole world, this whole stage right now is Karam Kshetra or Kurukshetra. And it's not that one corner you take out from this world and say, this is not Kurukshetra, here I will not be guarded and here I will not be in attention. No, you can't do that. And Baba always points out this I and mine. And every soul is capable of love, peace, joy, all the virtues. Every soul is powerful, and especially we BKs, we are taking so much sustenance from Baba that obviously we are working on our virtues and powers. But what happens is, whenever this I and mine comes up, then you forget all the Gyan and Yoga. So it is this I and mine which is the problem. And whenever you say, I the teacher, I the engineer, I the doctor, then everything that's happening in your field will start affecting you. And when you say, my mother-in-law, my husband, my brother, my sister, my wife, my children, then all the Gyan and Yoga will take a back seat. So Baba says that you have to remember I the soul and my Baba and none other. And with everybody else, you have to settle karmic accounts. And in every other place, you have to have soul consciousness and not fall into the trap and the pulls and the influences of body consciousness. Because when you start defining yourself as I this and I that, you see, I am a doctor, I am a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm a homemaker. And you see, even if you think, I'm the homemaker, then what happens is somebody comes and then they take charge in your home. So especially when children get married, then the new member in the family, you look at them that they are taking charge. And then what happens, all your insecurity starts coming up. And then you start feeling that, this is not right, and you start feeling threatened and you start feeling insecure in that situation when somebody has come and has started taking charge of your home, because your identity crisis starts happening when you start thinking that this new person is now in charge of my home, and this is my home, so they can't be in charge. So it's all about I and mine. And when you know that I am just a soul and everything else is anyways transient, and you have to use knowledge and powers and virtues in order to operate with them, play your part with them. And you need knowledge and virtues and powers to operate with all that you call mine. So Baba says that that's the problem. And when she learned that, then she told me that this is such a refreshing reminder, because I am in Gyan and Gyan helps me be a good nurse. But I think I don't have to be a good nurse. I have to be a good soul. And I have to be soul conscious for that, because when I stop being a nurse, I stop being good. So that's the thing that's happening. So I just wanted to share this with you. And today Baba says that you have to become aware of your specialities and use them in seva so that you attain your flying stage. Now you see, all day, do we pay attention to our specialities, or do we pay attention to our shortcomings or our weaknesses? Yes, and even more important is, sometimes you pay attention to your specialities, but those specialities are of no use if you don't use them. Yes, so I have heard many people, I can cook better than this person or that person, or I can, speak better than this person or that person. But what is the use if you don't cook and don't speak? You as well, what difference has it made? So if you didn't know how to cook and speak, and you know how to cook and speak very well, where's the difference if you're not using it for seva, and if you're not using it to create happiness for everyone? And it's very important that you know your specialities. And I have always observed this phenomena, that when you don't pay attention to keeping awareness of your specialities and using them to create, to create a new world. Even if you are using them to create, not just directly in Yagya Seva, but you're just using them to bring souls in loveful relationship in and around you. So, when you have specialities, then and you use them, then souls are drawn to you, and then you can introduce them to Baba. So, if you don't use your specialities for seva, then what happens is you are not aware of your specialities. They don't stay in your awareness, and then you are always aware of your weaknesses, and then you look at other people's weaknesses, and then you start losing your specialities. Yes, I'll give you a very simple example. So there is this Mata, and she told me that my sister-in-law is a very good, she cooks very well. So her Devrani, she cooks very well. And she said that I am a very good, I'm a very good, I do some job online and I'm very good at it. But what happens is everybody appreciates the cooking, they don't appreciate my working. So then I left the job, and now I can't cook and I don't work, and now I have nothing. So I said that, why did you leave that job? Because, she said it was not paying very well. I said, okay, but you were using your skills and talents and doing something out of that job, right? So she said, but nobody was appreciating it. So I said, but that's what you had. That's the only thing you had. And why did you give that up? Because nobody appreciated it. Because if you give up your speciality because it is not appreciated and somebody else's speciality is appreciated, then you don't end up having their speciality, you end up losing your own. So it's very important that we make use of our speciality, because that is what gives you happiness. And when you have, so happiness is the product of good karma. And how is good karma created? When you use your specialities on Baba's directions, and when you use it for, world benefit and bringing benefit to creating an atmosphere of seva, and creating an atmosphere where everybody knows that you have the speciality and it has come from Baba. So when you do that, then it creates happiness inside you. And when you are happy, you don't focus on other people's weaknesses. And when you are happy, you don't create thoughts of jealousy, you don't create thoughts of focusing on weaknesses, and you don't give up your own speciality in the process. So these are things that we need to understand, that if we want to progress, we have to make a note of all the specialities we have. And if you think that there's something that can be used on a larger platform or for seva, then you should let us know. And if there's something that you think that is not for a platform like not for Yagya Seva directly, but you can use it in your day-to-day life to bring souls closer to Baba, then use it that way. Yes, and Baba says that you must always use your specialities, because that is the way you will go to the flying stage, and there is no other shortcut. Okay, Om Shanti.